Hey, fuck you, Speedball. Well, fuck you too. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you shoot yourself into a work. Wait, strike that. Reverse it. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite from the Wolfenstein Center at CSU in Cleveland, Ohio. Wait, I'm sorry, I was misinformed. It's not the Wolfenstein Center, because that would imply that BJ Blazkowicz has to fight against a doctor that is throwing needles at him. What the fuck were they thinking with that goddamn boss? Or Hitler in a mech suit. Seriously, the Wolfenstein chapters were so goddamn weird. They had zombies with guns in their chests and all this stuff. Am I just going too deep on the Wolfenstein references? Does anybody remember the old DOS game? I mean, yes, there were other Wolfenstein games. There was one really good one, and then everything else has just been kind of messy. That being said, always remember to punch Nazis. Always remember to punch them. That being said, it's the Wolstein Center, and the capacity is around 13,600. They had about 3,200 people there. I was originally going to go with the Cleveland Rocks intro. I was going to try to make it non-binary rocks, but then I realized, hey, wait a second, non-binary people do rock. And guess what? If you have a problem with non-binary people or anybody that is LGBTQ, fuck y'all. Get your head out of the goddamn ground. Realize that people deserve to live as they are, as their true selves, and there's nothing wrong with it. They're not hurting you. It's just your goddamn bigotry and your hatred and your annoyance and your non-understanding of the fact that people can actually be happy being different. Get your head out of that storybook that you call the fucking Bible and realize that people are allowed to be as they are. So anyway, as people are, there were 3,200 people there, and the crowd was certainly loud for what they, what they shot. And I do want to quickly plug the fact that I talked about the WWE moving to, WWE PLE pay-per-views, as it were, moving to ESPN as part of their new streaming service deal. It's going to launch in a little bit. And I also talked about AEW maybe needing to try to get their pay-per-views on the Max for a little bit of an increased price, like maybe an increase of $10 or whatever. I know the pay-per-views are a big source of income. There's got to be a way to bundle this stuff and a way to pounce on this shit, because AEW could really get more people there. One, more affordable tickets for their live events. And, more affordable pay-per-views, because, yes, it's a dwindling fan base as far as modern wrestling, as far as big companies, but AEW could really pounce on this shit. And I did talk about AEW needing to change that stuff up and everything, but I stand by everything I said in that video, so check that out if you have a chance. I really would appreciate it. Now, that being said, I am here to talk about this show that, in all honesty, I think Tony Khan is either understanding that he can't do this on his own, listening to the right people, or maybe other people are just doing their own shit, and Tony Khan's leaving it in because the shows have flowed a little bit better. I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm not saying the show doesn't have its issues, because it still does have its issues. This show was one of the more cohesive ones, especially the main event, but then again, given who is involved in that, MJF and Mark Briscoe, it's not really surprising. We're speeding towards Forbidden Door. Speaking of the Forbidden Door, MJF went through, well, not a Forbidden Door, because he won the CMLL Light Heavyweight Championship, and he's fired up about Mark Briscoe. What I wasn't fired up about is the next match, or the first match as it were. John Moxley, along with Wheeler Yuta, that pile of afterbirth, that mop-top string bean, that useless goddamn motherfucker that serves no purpose, except to remind me that Tony Khan needs to stop hiring people based on the recommendations of a few others, because he looks like he belongs, just on the opposite side, just with the fans. He really just looks like he belongs there. And absolutely goddamn useless. And Marina Shafir, equally useless. Just do the indies, don't do this shit. I bet I've ranted about that before. It's fine. Speedball Mike Bailey comes out with Kevin Knight, and okay, great. Speedball's gonna have some help in the corner. No, Kevin Knight's like, hey, you got this. There's two other people there and a former AEW World Champion, but you got this, buddy. So Darby tried to kidnap John Moxley, and by try, I mean he kind of technically did, and was gonna throw him on the goddamn train tracks like, James Storm did to Mickey James. Remember that? Remember that shit? But, yeah, we get this. John Moxley demanded a match, and anybody could step up against him, and it was Speedball Mike Bailey. They love Speedball. Moxley sells like shit. He wrestles like shit. And I'm sorry, anybody that thinks that he is the best wrestler that AEW has, or anybody that thinks that he's the best member of the goddamn Shield, maybe a few years ago, before he was doing a bunch of this bullshit, now it is ridiculous. he did some eye poke comedy, which, okay, that was kind of funny. And it's a good thing that Kevin Knight showed back up. Thank God Kevin Knight was there so he could, take down Marina. But no, you can't do that. And I'm just going to say this right now. If they are not going to be allowed to lay out Marina and fire back against her, then it's useless. Have a goddamn woman out there that can attack her, because I thought it was going to be the stuff with Willow. That didn't go anywhere. Statlander, somebody do something here. End this Death Rider stuff. So, basically, Speedball hurt his hand. That was going to affect him. He hit a shooting star. He hit a nice, he got a nice arm breaker. And then Yuta interfered. Jesus fucking Christ. Ugh. I'm not going to get in trouble for what I want to say. But it is because the referee is distracted by Kevin Knight and Marina arguing. Darby then basically uses what is implied to be an ether-soaked rag to knock out Wheeler Yuta and drag him away. Unfortunately, not away for good. Not out of the goddamn company he doesn't belong in. I don't care if he's a nice guy. He's not any fucking good. And he drags Yuta away, and then we get a roll-up for 2. And we get some kicks. And then the choke and the Death Rider. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Or the pair of dimes shift, whatever it is. So there you go. That's the opening match right there. Renee is with Alex Windsor and Toni Storm. They do double entendres. Like Toni Storm says, you may beat us, but you'll never beat us off. Or beat us down, but you'll never beat us off. And Windsor says that if you get your lick in, I'm going to get my lick back. Why is everyone in wrestling so horny? I'm asking this often. I ask this a lot in chats with certain people. I'm especially asking it now. I may start asking this on more videos. Why is everyone in wrestling so horny? And then Marina, for what good she provides, which is nothing, and Jon Moxley barely selling his goddamn arm. They find a white sack out there, and it's Wheeler Yuta with a note not sadly stapled to his goddamn forehead, and they didn't have to rip it out so he'd know what kind of pain he causes me every time he appears. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But it says Forbidden Door. Don't fly Yuta over there, please. Please, just Tony, save the airfare. Just find a goddamn street urchin over there that's selling newspapers, like a London newsie. Would you be able to tell the difference? Somebody in a stupid hat with goofy hair. Somebody just says blood for no goddamn reason. So, yeah, it says Forbidden Door. And then Mercedes comes out of a limo with her belts and eating a piece of watermelon. I don't even need to say anything. Why don't you just cut to a goddamn Popeyes plug? Jesus, Tony, did you think about the optics of that? Speaking of optics, I don't know how focused the optics were for this particular match. It's Alex Windsor, Sky Blue, my goodness, Sky Blue, Queen Aminata, and Billy Starks. Billy Starks had Athena in her corner, so Toni Storm shows up, and this is a 4-way match. Basically, the winner of this represents AEW in the TBS 4-way that's going to happen. There's one for Stardom and one for CMLL. And Toni gets a big pop, and this is basically to build up her match with Athena. Everyone just dived on everybody. We did get a botched code blue at one point, and bless Sky. But I mean, I don't know if Aminata didn't want to go. I don't know what was going on, but Sky just kind of plopped her head into the goddamn chair, and I feel bad because Sky is trying, but is Aminata just hard to work with? Because, like, I don't know. There's just more evidence that maybe she is hard to work. It is what it is. There was also a bunch of women all Human Centipede together in a submission or whatever. That's the second most women I've seen Human Centipede together on the internet. You don't want to know about the first night. You can't legally talk about it. Toni didn't stop Athena, and a roll-up won it. Billy got pinned, naturally. Who the fuck else would? And then Mercedes showed up. I'm going to say right now, if Alex Windsor wins, it's not that I think that at Forbidden Door, by the way, she's talented, but if she beats Mercedes, that's going to reek of nepotism. Because there are so many women that are just floating around no creative or ridiculous or limited creative that could beat Mercedes for that and actually get a boost. But no, they'll probably give it to Alex. And I'm not just trying to disrespect her. So after Kyle Fletcher beat Dustin Rhodes and beat up on his knees, it was reported that Dustin Rhodes needs double knee replacement surgery. I'd like to wish him his best in his retirement because he's not coming back. The man is 56 years old, and double knee replacement or not, if he comes back, it's going to be one match. It's going to be a 6-man, probably teaming with Marshall and Ross Von Erich again in Texas or something, and that's going to be it. He doesn't need to do anymore. He has done plenty. He can focus on his recovery and on his wrestling school. I want to know who that beauty was, the long-haired beauty that was holding the table. There were 2 women, and I'm not saying they weren't both beautiful, but there was one with long, flowing black hair. My word, with respect, who is that? Who was that? Because, good Lord, they were holding all of Okada's belts because Okada couldn't bother to be there in Cleveland, bitch. No one likes Don Callis. I don't even think Don Callis' parents do. He probably was an asshole baby. Good on Kyle for winning the TNT title. He's going to retire more people like he did Adam Cole, baby, and Dustin. I don't think Adam Cole's coming back either. So they build up this whole thing with this oil painting. Take it off, Don, please. Gross. That's Mel Coleman art, I believe, is the Twitter handle, if I remember right. Great artist. Great rendition. It was Kyle doing the Shawn Michaels thing, just standing up with the TNT title, and Don being more ripped than I think he's ever been in his life. So Kyle vows to defend his championship often, become the greatest TNT champion, and he's defending on Collision, and it's going to be against Tomohiro Ishii. We find that out later. Where is Mark Davis? People just disappear. Report that people are injured. What happened? So Copeland's backstage with Alicia. That ought to be kind of hilarious, considering that Copeland and MJF should have a feud at some point. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, Christian, he hasn't learned anything. This company hasn't learned anything, relying on people that probably are just there for a paycheck. I'm not saying that Copeland doesn't work hard, but reuniting with Christian in 2025, I don't like when the Dudleys do it. I don't like when the Hardys do it, so whatever. Copeland versus Stokely next week. And FTR can either violate that restraining order or watch him destroy Stokely. Anything that gets FTR a little more of an edge, if you see what I did there. So, Brody King and Bandito, known as Brodito, took on the Bucks. They were known as Max and Jeremy. Generation Me. I'm going to say right now that if the Bucks actually just did the EVP stuff from the very beginning and built this thing up and, say the Lucha Bros beat them, and they weren't EVPs for a while. They were only EVPs till, say, 2021, maybe even early 2022, something. And built up this thing where they finally lost it, and then they wanted to do this stuff. It might have made sense. The thing is, it's too many years too late. The Bucks aren't funny. The crowd's enjoying it, and there's nothing wrong with this match, except it's a typical Bucks match. It's a semifinal tournament match. This was better than some of the stuff that they've done, which is not really high praise. The crowd enjoyed it, though. It went through 2 breaks. I think it went a bit too long. It was 20 to 22 minutes. Bandito dives to a big pop. We got some apron bumps for no reason. DDTs just either on the apron or on the floor. We got a launch and a splash that won it. Now, Brodito won the goddamn match, and I didn't hate the match, but it's just your typical Buck stuff, where they really can't do anything except their usual stuff, except they're slower and, balding. And trust me, I know something about that. Why were the Hurt Syndicate in a goddamn broom closet? MJF tries to apologize. MVP basically tells him, you're out, but I hope that you fail in your venture to win the world title, because if you don't, then Lashley's going to come for you, and it won't be business, it will be personal. And the fuck you speedball stuff. Look, let me just address the rumors really quickly. I'm more inclined to believe MVP, because MVP has no reason to lie. He has no goddamn reason to lie. The man's been through a whole damn lot, has made the most of his second chance, has done great in the ring, as a manager, he's done really good stuff. He still steps in the ring when necessary. And maybe him and Speedball just have a clash of personalities. Maybe, it's like oil and water. They just don't mix. I don't know what the reason is, if it's actually true. And I think, personally, there's this leaning into it and having fun with it. So that's all I got to say about the rumors. So, Stokely then basically says, I'm short, I'm bald, and I can't get any hoes. I mean, I would like to think that Stokely being on television and probably being a pretty nice guy probably can. Granted, he has to get a step stool to be able to look the woman, even like eye to chest. But that being said, it's basically just him doing comedy, and he insults Beth and said she had a head like a micro brawler and insults the kids. It's kind of funny that a guy that can't get any hoes despite living in Munchkin Land would make an insult about Beth. I'm actually shocked Beth has not shown up on this program. Package on Swerve and Okada. Here's Swerve, and basically the long and short of it is he vows to take down Okada. There you go. There's not much to say. There's not much to knock. Mark Briscoe is with Alicia. He should have said, I'm going to take your man out. But I don't know if they've actually said that they're dating or whatever. Hangman hopes Mark wins. And then Renee is with Queen Almanada. Instantly gets erupted by Willow. And they're getting a vow to take out the Triangle of Madness, I believe is what Julia, Tekla, and Sky are called. And then Statlander shows up. And for some reason reaches in Renee's pocket. Keeps her hand in Renee's pocket. Why is everyone in wrestling so horny? And then throws some confetti, weird stuff like she's Randy Savage in ICW. Okay. I think Statlander forgot the rest of her pants, too. MJF versus Mark Briscoe in a grudge match. So, I'm not going to get into a blow-by-blow thing about this, but they went into the crowd. They worked this well. I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was certainly a worthy main event match. They built this up the best they can, despite the fact that times Tony Khan doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Mark Briscoe broke out the tables. At one point, MJF was just doing some good heel work. He was rolling away at times, attacking Briscoe, attacking the weak point for massive damage. An elbow to the floor after MJF rolled away, and then MJF locked on a Boston Crab, and Mark Briscoe had a bloody mouth. We got the Froggy Bow for 2, a missed Froggy Bow through the table, and then a Heat Seeker. And oh my God, he got Mark Briscoe covered 1, 2, his foot on the ropes, 3, and the referee doesn't see, he's out of position, and MJF knocks the goddamn foot right off the ropes. So that way he can't see it, and apparently because Bryce Remsburg is incapable of checking out the instant replay, because the referee's decision is final. They've never used instant replay in wrestling before, except when Larry Zbyszko was a referee in WCW and other stuff, but I digress. So the crowd is pissed. And MJF has the ring, bloodies up Mark Briscoe with the ring. Hangman eventually shows up. We get a brawl with security. Security gets laid out. MJF and Hangman get in their fracas. Bingo, bango, boomo. And that is where we end up leaving this whole damn deal. So that's it. That's it for Dynamite. I'm going to reiterate that there may be a point where I take a bit of a break from Dynamite. It's going to depend on how the views go and depend on my general interest. I'm at least interested to see where some of these feuds go. My thing is they really need a hard reset with some of their stuff. Not necessarily with their tag division, but they need a reset with... They do need to build up their tag division, but they also need a bit of a, tweaking of their women's division. No, that's not a euphemism. They especially need it with the TBS title, because they need to get that off of Mercedes, and they need to start having some good feuds built up. But that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rittland. Until we meet again, happy trails to you.